No, you can't hide the truth. I'ma slide right through your roof. Might pop a pill or two. Let them hear we chop the deuce. Fuck that, we getting loose. Pussy sweeter than some juice. I slurp it like a steak. She a naughty type on the weekend. Perfect night, she gon' let me start the creeping. Baby blowing offense, I'm playing defense. You on top, I swear that's the perfect sequence.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. Let me lower the mic a tad bit here. What's going on? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. It is, what is it, Monday right now? I don't even know what day it is right now. It's Monday night here on the East Coast and a long weekend that I just went through. Between Cage Titans 41 that went down on Saturday night out at Plymouth Memorial Hall in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And it took me about 3 hours to get there, but so worth it. We were going to see Joe Giannetti go in there and make things happen. And unfortunately, it went to a draw. I don't know if I should say unfortunately, because today it just came out. A little breaking news before we settle in here on episode number 165. A little breaking news here. Maybe not breaking, but maybe to you, I might be breaking this news. But Joe Giannetti on Facebook started calling out Slippery Pete Barrett, which I've seen Pete, before I even even knew he was a fighter, I saw him doing media cage side for Line Fight, which was actually, he caught my eye. He's another one of those Cage Titan guys that is a character. Last night on the stream, we had Jacobo call in. We had Ken Moy call in. We had Chris O'Brien, teammate of Joe Giannetti, call in. All these guys, Stapleton, Perrin, all these guys are just perfect characters. And if you know what you're looking at, like we said last night when we were talking to Gerson, there's a lot of excitement to be excited about when it comes to Cage Titans. And I really believe this is my favorite promotion on the East Coast. There's a lot of guys that are coming out of here that you are going to definitely see in the next year or two inside the UFC. And that's the best part of doing my job here, is watching guys on the regional circuit make a name for themselves, develop their characters, get a couple wins, and cause static. And that's the best part of it all. You catch my attention, I'm gonna promote you. I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna go live stream. I'm gonna say your name. I'm gonna tell you what I like about you. And there is nothing bad I can say about any of the guys over at Cage Titans. And we're gonna have a couple of them joining us here tonight on Pure Evil. Let me take my phone away from the thing. All right, guys. So before we jump into the static of Pure Evil MMA, episode number 165, we have a great lineup, by the way. Let me tell you. Subscribe down below, as I always say. Subscribe down below here on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're tuning in right now. And I've been really trying hard not to swear. And I think last episode I didn't swear once. So Iggy's going to be proud, and Iggy's going to be checking in with us later on in today's show. But guys, we are trying to hit 1K on the YouTube channel. For some reason, we get 10 times more downloads and listens on Spotify, Podbean, iTunes. We were trending popular in iTunes. We still are. Since the beginning of this year, we've been holding 20 out of 20 rank on Apple iTunes, which makes me so happy. Shows me that I'm doing the right thing. And it means a lot to me. But it would mean even more if you guys went onto the YouTube channel and saw some of the work that I'm doing on there. I mean, we got the Fight Companion, which is supposed to be dropping right after this interview. I'm gonna be able to get that up by, I want to say midnight, at least by tomorrow morning. I've been slaving away all day at this. Basically, the live action Fight Companion, you guys get to see what media members do behind the scenes from when I leave the house all the way out there to Plymouth, Massachusetts. It was a 4-hour ride. And I went there to go support my South Shore boys and girls. And man, I got such a welcome when I got there. So many people came up to me, told me they supported the show. I mentioned this last night, and I just got to tell you guys, thank you so much, because it just shows me that I'm doing the right thing here. I got to keep moving forward. I got to keep banging out these interviews, making the connections that I'm making, because you guys don't have a lot of people. You guys have someone to relate to it, but a lot of people out there don't. Like, there's so many cookie cutter journalists that, like, honestly, it's going to sound like I'm an asshole, but they were probably picked on in high school. Like, there's just nothing intriguing about them. They do a great job writing up, their articles or whatnot, but there's really just a handful of guys out there that is doing what I do, especially on the YouTube channel. So check out the live action Fight Companion down below. We do it for Lion Fight, we did it for CES, and now Cage Titans is going to be dropping tonight, or at least by tomorrow morning. All right, so here's today's lineup for today's podcast, episode number 165.5, because last night we did another Cage Titans recap, and tonight is kind of intertwined with that. And a matter of fact, I got a really exciting guest, the second guest that's going to be calling in. Well, all the guests are amazing. All right, so first guest, we got Johnny Cupcakes. Johnny Cupcakes is going to be calling in, who's actually like in the family of Joe Gennetti. He's dating Joe Gennetti's little cousin, and Joe Gennetti's little cousin is actually one of the handful of photographers, one out of 2-3 photographers for Cage Titans. You got Joe Gennetti's little cousin. I think her name is Maria Gennetti. So follow her on Instagram. I'll have Cupcakes share hers Instagram tag, and also Igdalio Medina, who's going to be calling in to end today's show to give us a little taste of what it takes to be a photographer inside the MMA scene. Not many people get to hear from the people that are in the underground, and there's so much work that goes into it. The moments that are captured. Look at Esther Lynn. I mean, I got to finally meet Esther Lynn at Bellator 207. She is such a bright soul. She had a sick haircut going on. I went up to her. I introduced myself to her, and she's shy. She's whatever. But Igdalio Medina, and she's going to be calling in last, like I said. So I'm kind of going out in order here. But we actually met at one of the first shows I ever covered, World Series of Fighting. Ray Sefo was there. Doomsday Howard was there. Who else was there? Some big names were there. Not David Branch. Jason High fought that night. I mean, that was the first night I met Igdalio Medina. So she's going to be calling in tonight at about 8:40, I want to say. 8:15, Johnny Cupcake's going to be calling in. He is coming off a win this weekend against, or not a win. He's coming off a very close fight, which I thought he personally won against Dan Dubuque, who, there's a whole backstory here. And I have Johnny Cupcakes share that story. But I personally thought that Johnny won. I love both these guys. They put on a great fight. Perrin was right there, and you're going to see it in the fight companion. I mean, Perrin was right there saying, boo, this fight's boring, blah, 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 blah. You guys were saying that I'm going to be boring, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot to unravel here. There is an absolute mess, a knot that we need to untie here. And the Cupcake's going to help us do that because apparently they're going to be going for the rematch. I mean, it was so close that instead of giving them the title shot, they're going to rewind it. And I'm not a big fan of rematches, but this time I can see them doing a rematch and it making a lot of sense. And Kin Moy came on the show last night, and he most likely will be next for the title fight against Perrin. After he calls in, we got Jay Cuccinello from the season of Ultimate Fighter, season 27, alongside Joe Gennetti. Very interesting. He has an upcoming fight. He's actually in the States right now as we speak. He's going to be calling in via Skype at about, I told him calling at 8:27. It is currently 8:15. Johnny Cupcakes calling in right now. How perfect is that? Oscar. You guys see Oscar back there grilling me right now? Oscar. All right, we got Johnny Cupcakes calling in. What's going on, Johnny? How you doing today, man? How you feeling?
Yo, good. How are you doing?
I'm feeling awesome, man. So let me just clear things up here really quick. You were actually supposed to join us last night on the episode of Cage Titans Recap, but tonight it is episode number 2, or at least part 2 of the Cage Titans Recap, and it wouldn't be a show if we didn't have you come on because you were such a piece to the puzzle that was Cage Titans last night, or this weekend, I should say. I still feel like it was last night because it's so fresh in my head. But man, you had hockey last night. You're a busy guy, and I've been trying to get you on the show for quite some time now. I've been watching you fight, go in there, and this weekend, it really felt like it was your shot to go in there and shine. Now, before we even talk about the fight, let's discuss how this fight came about, because I think that's one of the more interesting parts that people need to know about to understand how the storyline goes, because Dan Dubuque was actually supposed to be fighting Joe Gennetti. And I'm going to give it to you from here. Explain how this fight came into place, because when Joe went to Ultimate Fighter, things got a little confusing. So you want to bring us through the story here? Make us relive it?
Yeah, I can do my best. Jojo got the opportunity for the Ultimate Fighter, so he and Dubuque never got to meet, unfortunately. I feel like that would have been a pretty sweet fight. But Dan did then fight Jimmy the Tooth shortly thereafter for the Cage Titans 55 title, I believe it was for, and Dan won that, and he has aspirations to the UFC, understandably so, we all do, so he wanted to prove to, anybody looking on that he could do multiple weight classes, and he wanted to try to come down and have some success at 35, so he was looking at a few different opponents, like he was thinking about fighting Jay Perrin for the 35 title right off the bat coming down, but he wanted to definitely make sure that his weight cut was on point. So I basically offered to welcome him to the bantamweight division, and I feel like I did a hell of a job in doing that. But yeah, that's pretty much how it transpired. I mean, we were, kind of a weird little mix. He's, nothing against South Shore, nothing against Golden Falcon. I don't think we dislike each other. We just have some of the best fighters in the area, and we just tend to get scheduled up against each other.
So listen, man, it's really interesting because I was filming the live action fight companion, which is going to be dropping after episode 165 tonight, and Perrin was right there watching you guys fight. Did you hear him in the background there?
Cool. Yep, so cool. When I walked in the cage, I saw him sitting right there, and it's just like beautiful. It felt like McGregor, Aldo,
yeah,
kind of thing going on. It was pretty sweet.
That's exactly what it reminded me of. And let me tell you this: I don't know if he knows what I do with the live action fight campaigns where I film with the GoPro and kind of give people an inside feeling of what's really going on. I mean, a lot of these cookie cutter journalists, they just give out results. They don't really tell people, or people don't get to witness what is actually going on behind the scenes. And that was a moment where he literally came right into frame. He was there screaming at you guys and all this. I mean, going in this fight, before we even talk about the fight, did you think the winner of this would get Perrin at the end?
Yeah, I mean, my intention was definitely to beat Dan and look to set up that rematch. I think that that's a fight that I still really am hungry for. I think that's a really good fight for me as well. So that was definitely the point. I think Dan probably felt similarly. I think that was kind of the idea. Perrin originally said he wanted to fight in January, and then, personally, I think it's because I laid a beating on him, so he was unable to get back to training fast enough to make that happen. And so yeah, Dan and I met kind of for a number one contender spot, I'd say. I mean, it's tough because this division is so stacked with Kim Boy coming back, and then Brandy Costa just kicking people's heads into the stands and stuff. It's there's so much action happening, but I think that Dan and I still are currently the guys who have kind of put ourselves in the position to be that number one contender. And coming in, I thought that we'd be fighting for the number one spot to fight Jay.
So afterwards, obviously, another storyline unraveled. You guys actually got requested to do a rematch. But before we talk about that, let me tell you this, man. I mean, I love Dan. I think Dan did a great job moving down a weight class because he's kind of a smaller guy. I thought this was a great choice for him. But I scored the round, and I got it right here in my notebook and here on OneNote. I scored 2 rounds for you, man. How did you feel going in that first round? Bring us through this fight.
Yeah, so going into the first round, I had decided with my team included, obviously, in making the decision that I was going to take him down almost immediately. I wanted to definitely strike with him enough and throw some hard strikes at him, some leg kicks like I did, to reinforce that we were going to kickbox and then surprise him with a takedown. And I mean, it honestly couldn't have worked any better. So going into the first, it was legit 25 minutes before I went out, I decided I'm going to take him down within the first minute and not even give him a chance, really. And then it worked perfect. He tends to throw combinations of strikes, and I wanted to interrupt that. And first thing that he does, double jab. I knew the leg kick was coming 100%, and I ducked in underneath it, took him down. And I thought I took that first round for sure. So I agree with you, 2 rounds to 1 for me, but 2 of the judges didn't agree with us, unfortunately.
I mean, the judging was kind of off this weekend. I mean, we're going to talk about Joe's fight and how you felt about that. But man, like I said, I scored 2 rounds for you, but there was a couple of really shining moments in this fight that I really enjoyed. I mean, you even almost got the choking at one point. Did you think you had enough? Did you think you were going to finish him when you sunk that in?
Yeah, definitely. He's just so tough. That guy is ridiculously tough. So I did. I had my arm on his chin even a couple times, and was thinking about just trying to cinch down and crush his face, but he's just so tough. He kept himself in a good position where I couldn't really apply full pressure, I felt like. I was definitely feeling pretty tired at that point, too. I I thought, we're talking about the same spot. I had just rocked him and tried to finish and flurried and kind of like dumped my load a little bit. So just feel like I didn't have quite enough. But yeah, there were a couple points where I was surprised. The game plan was not to finish. The game plan was to stay on him, pressure him as much as I could, and if the finish came, take it. But I was almost surprised a couple of times at how close I was to finishing, and I think that kind of made me not hesitate, but it just wasn't part of the plan, and because of that, it was a little tougher, I think, to get the finish. So things to work on for next time.
I mean, man, it really felt like a wrestling tug of war here. You guys were just battling it out with just pure pressure. It really felt like when you guys were wrestling, it felt like you guys were evenly matched up when it came to that, when it came to that topic there. Do you agree with me there? Like you guys are pretty evenly matched when it came to the grappling aspect?
Definitely. I think so. I think that we were very evenly matched in a lot of ways. He had a little bit more. I think he was maybe winning the clinch battle a little bit more, and then when it came to the wrestling, the like shooting in and sprawling out and whatnot, I feel like I was kind of edging him there. And then on the mat, he's just really tough to keep down. So I feel like the jiu-jitsu, we were both both kind of on par there as well. So yeah, it was super interesting. I think that like places where I was able to kind of gain an edge on him was that I felt a little bit quicker. I felt like I had a little bit more pop on some of my, whether it was my takedowns or my punches. Yeah, he did a phenomenal job too in the clinch, elbowing and whatnot, and defending the takedown. But yeah, I feel like we are definitely evenly matched, especially in the clinch and on the ground.
Yeah, you guys definitely put on a great fight. I mean, Dan even threw at least threw a really nice spinning elbow. Did you feel that?
Yeah. Look, I'm pretty sure I ducked underneath it. I think like I had just happened to be trying to escape out of the clinch, like just as he was throwing that. So, but kudos to him. I definitely in the moment thought, like, damn, that was the coolest strike that I've ever had thrown at me, probably. Like, that was badass. But I don't believe he hit me with it, though I had some lumps on my head, so he might have. He definitely landed a little, like, sharp elbows in weird positions. He's really good at that, like, in defending my takedown, and then even a couple times as I was in top on guard, or in guard, he's just constantly working, never stopping, and I respect him a lot for that.
So obviously, as this fight came to the third round, where were you feeling? Did you feel like you're up 2 rounds, or did you think it was 1-1? Where were you at going into that third round?
I was pretty much convinced I had won the first 2. I'm not going to say I gave up in the third, but I was willing to like kind of skate through the third. Even my team was like, dude, stay moving. And you're gonna win this fight. Like I was pretty sure that I agreed with them 100%. So I went into the third, and I was pretty tired at that point. I mean, no excuses, but I had an infection, a skin infection on my face about 3 weeks before the fight. I was on antibiotics for 10 days during my training camp. I just don't believe I was able to put in as much as I maybe could have to train for this fight. And I think it resulted in me having a tiny bit less cardio. And I just think that if I had a full 100% training camp, I think I steamroll Dan. And that is said with much respect, because I think the guy's a beast. But I think I put him away, whether in the third or I do it whether in the second or the third. And yeah, I definitely went in the third thinking, okay, I'm fucking tired, and I probably won those first 2 rounds. I wasn't really looking to finish. I shot in on some takedowns to kind of keep the pressure on him. But he ended up on top. He kind of took my back. I was never in danger, but I was more thinking, just keep moving, get through this fucking round. You're gonna win this fight. He's known for going to decisions, so I would have loved to finish him, but I was like, I got this decision in the bag. Survive this round, we're good. And sure enough, just didn't happen that way. So you gotta just learn from it, move on.
And
And
before we talk
never
about
give
that
up.
cupcakes, I just want to say what you were saying about the antibiotic thing. That's actually true. That's not an excuse. That's actually very, very true. We've seen it before with fighters who have had staph infections. I mean, Kevin Lee being one of the examples of that. Antibiotics, when you're getting ready for a fight, you're on antibiotics, you're not going to fight the same. Your energy is not going to be on point to where it was. So were you a little nervous going to this fight that, you weren't going to be able to give it your 100%?
Absolutely. That was the one thing that kept me a little bit nervous before the fight was that, like, man, am I definitely going to have the cardio to go all 3 rounds? And, I mean, I know from fighting for so long, and I've, been doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I'm always in the gym. So my body is just, like, made for this right now. I've conditioned my body that fighting is kind of what it does. So, short bursts of energy and short bursts of rest and, just cardio. So I knew that deep down, I knew I was going to get through it. But the real question was, like, could I put my all into it? And then, like, I definitely did. I fought probably one of the best fights that I've ever fought. And that's why it does kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth that I feel like there was something, like, quote unquote, holding me back, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Like, the result is a little bit less important than the experience and the knowledge that I've gained through this fight. So I think that I'm going to take this in stride. I feel like a winner, and I think it's just on to the next one, take the next big fight and just try to, just get back on that winning track.
Well, were you definitely surprised when they announced when they announced the decision? Because, like I said, the judging was a little off this weekend. What was your pure reaction to that scorecard?
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much shocked. I don't know. There's Cage Titans put up a nice little, like, Instagram clip where they show the result, and my jaw just dropped. When they first announced 29-28, I thought to myself, Dan Dubuque. And I knew it was going to be a split decision, and it was like, this is going to be a tight one for some reason. Even though I was like so confident, and it was like, yep, sure enough, 29-28 first one, next one 29, and I said it in my head 27. I knew that I 10-8'd him in that second round, and sure enough, 29-27 to Cupcakes. I'm like, yes, all right. And just because of the last fight, I thought it was close, but I didn't win. It was a decision. I'm kind of in the mode of where I'm almost praying when they're saying the decision. Please, God, let it be me. Please, God, let it be me. Even though I felt like I definitely won. And it was 29-28, little bit of hesitation. And the back of my head just went, Dan Dubuque. And sure enough, boom. They announced it, and my fucking jaw just dropped. I mean, utter shock. I was convinced that I won, but you just can never, nothing's guaranteed in this life, unfortunately. And unless you go out and literally rape and pillage and take what is yours, you just don't necessarily deserve it. And for whatever the reason, the universe wanted me to know that for sure. And, I think that I think that if I put 100% in my training camp, I think I steamroll him. I think that I'm only getting better. I honestly think that this was my best performance yet. And I think that it's just a matter of time. If I keep myself positive and I keep moving forward and I keep learning, I will get to where I want to be, which is the UFC, top of the world. So let's do it.
So they offered you guys a rematch. Obviously, you're not really feeling that. They actually offered, or when Perrin went in there, he was like, you know what, Kin Moy would be a great matchup. Would you like to see that next? Do you think that you should fight somebody else and then get ready for the title and then have Kin Moy and Perrin fight? Or how do you see the future going?
Yeah, man, I love that fight. I think Kin Moy and Jay Perrin would be an incredible battle. Me, Kin and I trained a ton for these fights that we had this weekend. We trained together quite a bit, so I don't ever see myself fighting Kin. So if he won the title, I think he beats Jay Perrin for sure. Pretty handily too, honestly. So, that would definitely shake things up. Yeah, I do like the Dan Dubuque rematch. I do believe that I beat him, and it was for a rematch. But it's I beat him once in my head as far as I'm concerned. Even though the Cup scorecards read differently, it's do I give him the opportunity to fight me again. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. I think that I think Cage Titans has unlimited resources. I think that I could fight for Cage Titans, as long as I wanted. But after this fight, I'm like considering maybe, trying to travel a little bit and do something a little different. Obviously MMA still, but I don't know if I've kind of like, overstayed my welcome in the Massachusetts region or not, but it just feels like these judges are like against me kind of in a way. So, we'll see. My future is the biggest possible fights that gets me, the most exposure to where I want to be. So if that's Dan Dubuque and my team and coaches and managers think that, then we're going to go that way. But I just want to try to, stamp my name in the history books, whether it's in New England or beyond. I want to do that. So I'm going to take the best, most explosive path to that. And I don't 100% know what we're going to do next, but I will be in that cage in January for either Cage Titans or another promotion 100%.
And listen, man, you got a huge following. I mean, the crowd goes crazy every time you step in there. Before we end today's interview, I got to bring this up. You actually are dating Joe Giannetti's little cousin, right? Who's the photographer?
Yeah. Good catch.
So obviously, it had to be a little personal for you when that main event came around. How did you feel about Joe's performance? Did you watch it? What did you think?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I definitely watched it. I thought it was a great scrap. I think that JoJo is incredibly talented. I mean, he's one of my favorite people. I think that third round was 100% 10-8, However, they scored the first two. Being a draw, it's like kind of a bummer, but I feel like at the same time it all works out kind of in the best way possible, probably, resulting in a draw. It's like it's kind of a good thing, even though I do think that he could I think he could finish that guy for sure. And I think that Joe is going to kind of do what I'm going to do. He's going to stay positive about it, use it as a learning tool, whether that be to help him improve or for him to approach the fight in a different fashion. I mean, he's definitely a smart dude and super young. That although we didn't get like the W, I still think that he furthered his career with this fight, and I think he's going to use it as a launch pad to do bigger things than he's already doing even.
So honestly, man, Cage Titans put on one of the best events that night. What other fights did you catch, and who stood out to you? I mean, Stapleton is somebody that really stood out to me. Do you know who this kid is, Stapleton? He won via like calf slicer.
Of course, yeah. I mean, the boneless, you can't do jiu-jitsu in this area and not know that kid. He is just a savage. I mean, especially lately I've seen him. He'll just walk up to the tables, the competition tables, and just be like, yeah, I'm that guy right there. Like, I'm Dave Johnson or whatever. And he'll just try to get matches with random people. He'll just like show up at tournaments and just compete endlessly. It's crazy seeing this kid go. And then to see him do what he's doing in the cage now, it's just super impressive. I mean, even his kickboxing looks good. He is definitely a huge, possible rising star. So much potential in that kid. And I'm super excited to see him keep competing.
Man, I mean, he broke my virginity for the first time I ever seen a calf slicer live.
Right.
I've never seen that happen live. It was absolutely amazing, man. And just his energy, he's got the it factor. And man, like I was saying about you before we end this interview, you got such a big following, man. So we really want to see you back in there. Last but not least, this is what we do at the end of every interview. When do you think you're going to get back into there? Within the next 4 months, maybe? I mean, you said you might not be Cage Titans, maybe another promotion, reality fighting, Animal Fight League, whatever it may be. When do you think you're going to get back in there?
At ASAP, as soon as possible. Sooner the better, really. I mean, I have a 15-minute, full MMA fight on Saturday. I played a hockey game on Sunday, scored 4 goals, and I feel better than I've ever felt. I was in the gym tonight. I did a little bit of lifting. I'll be training again for sure, back full-time this week. And, January for Cage Titans is a definite. But I'm going to talk to my people, Mike Bolvere included. I mean, he is a mastermind in MMA, and although he runs Cage Titans, he's one of them. I'd consider him a mentor of mine. And I think that my career is blossoming in a good way, and it's more about now just connecting some of the dots to really to make this happen. And I think that Cage Titans has been a huge help. They've made me who I am, so I would love to keep fighting for them. But if there's different opportunities, I think that we're going to take that as well. So I'd say as soon as possible. January is a definite. Within 2-3 months maximum, you're going to see me back in the cage, and definitely a better version even.
So, Cupcakes, what we like to do at the end of each interview is give the floor to you. If you got any sponsors, shout outs, anything at all, especially your social media pages where people can find you and, comment, watch you blossom into the MMA scene in the big stages in the next couple of years. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate it so much. You've been great. You do a fantastic job. I'm Johnny CC MMA. I'm pretty much everything. I think domestic primate on Snapchat if you're trying to do that. Facebook, Johnny Cupcakes Campbell fan page. Hit that up. Stay posted on everything. I got South Shore Sport Fighting and Rugged RX Fitness are my main teams. UFC Gym in Boston is doing big things with their competition team and everything that they do, and they do a lot to help me out as well. Cage Titans, obviously I got to give a shout out to Cage Titans too. Like I said, I wouldn't be anything without them 100%. They have done incredible things, and they continue to do, and it's super fun to watch them grow as well. So, and guys like yourself as well, I love the media scene that follows MMA in general in this area, but the local MMA scene, you guys all do a fucking phenomenal job making us kind of like superstars, and I really appreciate that a lot.
It means a lot for you to say that, man, but I'm going to get yelled at by everybody if I don't ask you this one last question before we let you go. Where does Cupcakes come from?
Oh man, it's just an old nickname. When I first started going to South Shore Sport Fighting, they're into like quirky nicknames.
Yeah.
And yeah, somebody just called me Cupcakes because I'm fun, like bubbly and fucking, and always having fun and whatnot. And the t-shirt company, Johnny Cupcakes, must have had some kind of inspiration, and it just caught on like immediately. And when I walked out for my first MMA fight, unbeknownst to me, they had listed me as Johnny Cupcakes Campbell. And it's just kind of like something that's stuck. Everybody likes it. People call me Cupcakes almost exclusively. So it's just become part of who I am. And I embrace it. I kind of like it now at this point. So it's just part of the whole South Shore experience,
Man, the South Shore boys and girls had a phenomenal night. You got some merch up as well, which you guys can go buy. So go check it out at Johnny C MMA or Johnny. Let's see what it is. Johnny CC MMA on Instagram, guys. Thank you so much, Cupcakes. It means so much. I've been trying to get you on for a while now, so it means a lot that you came on here. And we got a lot more to talk about next time you come on, man. So you got your Pure Evil MMA horns, man, and I want to thank you so much.
Man, thank you so much. I appreciate everything.
Have a blessed night.
Have a great rest of the interviews.
There we go, guys. Johnny Cupcakes, and I've been trying to get him on for a minute now. I'm telling you, like I've had my eye on this guy for so long. I've been hearing about him before I even got to meet him at the fights. I mean, like I've been saying this entire way through, Cage Titans has so many characters. But Shane Daughtry is calling in right now, so let's get him in here, and we're gonna get his take on what's next with him. We're gonna get his take on his opponent, where he fought Murin. I personally scored every single fight, every single round for Daughtry, and there are a couple of interesting moments that actually I wrote down. Make sure to give him a follow on his Instagram page at xShaneDaughtry. That's XShaneDougherty. And here's Shane right here. What's going on, Shane? How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. What a crazy weekend it was for Cage Titans. I gotta say, before we even start this interview, it's definitely one of my favorite promotions around, just really because the crowd, the energy, every fighter has its own personality. It's just full of characters, and I really love going to these events, and you guys put on one hell of a showing between you and Murin, man. So first, before we talk about anything, how did this fight come about? How did you guys get matched up?
Yeah, so after my last fight in June against Brett Layton, me and the team decided to go back up to 145, just because I'm at school right now, and making 135 while, going to class and everything just didn't seem super realistic. So we said, okay, whatever, we'll go back up to 45. My first fight was at 45. So that's how it happened. And then I think Sean had tried to get on the August card, but his opponent pulled out or something like that. So they said, get us on the next card. We'll take on whoever. My coaches pretty much have the same attitude of we'll fight anyone whenever. And, Pulver took us both and said, this will be a fun fight. Let's do it.
And you were actually just saying that you're currently going to school right now, and I got your Instagram up for everybody watching the video cast right now. And what are you a part of, a fraternity? Rush Sigma Chi?
Yeah. I'm actually the vice president of my fraternity,
Wow.
Sigma Chi.
Wow, man. And it's pretty funny. We're looking at a picture right now. Everyone's sitting there smoking cigars, except for you. So, like,
Yeah, in training camp, I can't smoke cigars.
how does the people around you, your brothers, feel about you fighting? Do they come in support? Are they a huge help for your weight cutting? Because it's a tough thing, man, going through the weight cutting and being at school, going through classes, studying, and all that. It's got to be one hell of a battle for you just doing that alone.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. Like, I'll be him, and I'll go through one practice. I'll be there for a couple hours, and then I have to take like a half-hour break to wrap up some homework, and then I get back on the mats. So it's funny, but no, when it comes to the guys in my fraternity and all my friends, everyone's super supportive, especially when it comes to the weight cut and even my roommates. Like, it'll be a Tuesday night. I'll get back from practice, and I'll be exhausted or whatever, and I'll get back to my room. Like, there's girls, people hanging out, so, but everyone, they know that when I'm in training camp that, things have to kind of change up a little bit, and they're super respectful of that, so I'm nothing but grateful.
And do you kind of see, like, over the years of you, being mixed martial arts, the self-discipline really come into play here? I mean, like you just said, there's girls, there's partying, people smoking cigars, who knows what's in them. I mean, you got to be pretty strong-minded to, do the right thing, so...
Years of martial arts definitely teaches you that self-discipline, and more than anything, it's the drive to win. Thursday nights, I could go out, party, go crazy and stuff, but if I'm in camp, I have to remind myself that, when I'm partying, I'll always think to myself, like, is my opponent partying right now? You know what I mean? Is this going to affect practice tomorrow? So you have to make those choices to be able to, put that aside, save it for the celebratory win, and in those weeks while you're getting ready for the fight to, stay level-headed and keep grinding.
So listen, man, let's jump into the fight here. I mean, well, the way your opponent came out, he came out pretty strong. I wrote down that he came out really heavy. How are you feeling in those first couple of minutes there in the first round? I mean, I personally scored every single round for you, but, your opponent was pretty tough, man. He came out swinging. So how are you feeling in those first moments?
100%. And we kind of knew that going into this fight. We kind of figured that, the first, minute or 2 minutes of the fight that he was going to come out really, hard. We saw, obviously in his first fight against Aaron Hughes, he knocked him out within like under a minute or something like that. And then even in his fight against John Duma, he comes out really, looking for the knockout early. So we kind of knew that we were going to have to weather the early storm. The problem was, in weathering that early storm, I think he definitely hit me a few times that, definitely made it harder to weather the storm. But, I was able to keep my composure, and, ultimately, once that, early attack kind of wore off, I was able to kind of set the pace and then, start attacking myself.
And going into that second round, there was an amazing moment there where you actually knocked out his mouthpiece. What did you think in that moment there? Because when I was watching, I mean, how did that unravel, that moment there?
I never, have really been taunted in any of my fights. Even in, my kickboxing smokers, I never, no one ever really was, talking or anything like that. And I question marked him, and he, looked at me like that didn't hurt, that was nothing. And I just was thinking to myself, no, there's no way that didn't hurt. So then, I was just so angry, I just threw a jab, and I saw the mouthpiece pop out. In my head, it was, a moral victory. Yeah, that's what you get for taunting me.
And that's got to feel so good in those moments there, because when you're done with the fight or looking back, you just hope that one of the photographers caught that moment, and hopefully Iggy did. But when that actually happened, man, where were you going into the third round? Did you think you were up 2 rounds? What were you thinking? What was your corner thinking?
Well, in the corner after the first round, I spoke to my coaches, and we pretty much knew that I had won that round, even though that he was able to strike a lot and get good offense off in the beginning of the round. I ended on top. I ended with a deep rear naked choke, and if I only needed like 5-7 more seconds, and I would have had that, because when the ref, pulled me off for the end of the round, it was under his neck. So that was just unfortunate. But, I ended that round on top, and then in the second round, I landed a good amount of head kick. I think I, was able to take him down a couple times. So in the third round, I knew I was up 2 rounds.
And there was a moment, I think it was at the end of the second round, where you threw a kick and it literally just missed him. I mean, you had a lot of output in that fight. So going into that third round, where's your mindset at? I mean, did you feel like you had to be extra active in this round, or how are you feeling going into that third round?
Well, going into the third round, when I was on the stool, my coach, Matt Martin, he, really made sure to remind me, like, you're up 2 rounds. This kid's probably going to come out really hard and just try to put you away. And that's what happened in the beginning of the third round. He really came out. He pressed. But that time, unlike the first round, like I really had it in my head. I was super prepared for it. So he wasn't really able to create much offense. And once I put him up against the fence, I was able to take him down. And then at that point, I kind of knew that I just needed to stay active and, try my best to look for the finish. But if it's not there, don't take any, crazy risks, because, I knew I was up all 3 rounds. So ultimately, I would have the fight.
So when you heard the decision get announced, did you agree with what the judges scored it for? Because, like I said, I scored every single round for you. What were you feeling there? Do you think the judges nailed it? Because the judging was a little weird this weekend.
Well, the judges for my fight, all 3 had it 37 for me. So, yeah, I do agree with what they had.
I think I do, too. I think that was the one fight that they actually nailed. So what are you thinking moving forward here? I mean, obviously, this was a great fight. And before we even talk about what's next, did you guys catch up after the fight? Because, they have the after party and whatnot, and everyone around here knows one another. So did you guys leave off on good terms?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Once we walked out of the cage, we both were in the back, like, changing and stuff. And he was super cool. He came over. We were talking. I actually have a really awesome picture of us talking to each other, and we're both laughing. That picture means a lot to me, because I think it really shows like what this sport's all about. We punch each other in the face, try to take each other out for as long as we can, but afterwards, it's all good.
So listen, man, before we even talk about what's next with you, were you able to catch any of the other fights? And if so, what were some of the fights that stood out to you?
The only fight I was able to watch when I was in the back, I don't really love watching the fights when I'm in the back. It's kind of like distracting to me. I really like focusing on like my personal objective. But I watched 2 fights. I watched Randy's fight, which was super quick, and then I watched the girl fight.
Kat Sikis?
The girl names, but the one that must have won fight of the night.
The one that was like earlier on in the night.
Yes, the one that was just an absolute brawl.
Yeah, that was Kat Sikis and what was the other girl's name? Kat Sikis and Perez. That was a great fight, and they got awarded. And speaking about awards, Randy Costa also got an award for his finish, man. I mean, this kid on the map right now. What would you like to see him do next? Because he's such a huge name over at Cage Titans. That division is a lot of fun. His opponent Thorne put on a great fight, but Costa all around, man, he's got the it factor right now. I would like to see him against like a wrestler, son. What would you like to see Randy do next?
Yeah, he's got some good wins under his belt right now. He's taking all these dudes out real quick, so just keep the good times rolling. That's really up to him and his team. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy watching his fighting. I love his style. So yeah, I mean, whoever they put in front of him, I'm sure it'll be a good fight.
And there's a lot of guys on this card that I was really interested in. Even if I hadn't heard of them before, they definitely caught my eye, especially one of them named Stapleton. Do you know this kid? I mean, he's like, 19 years old maybe? He won via calf slicer, going on to 2-0. He's got like the look for like, he looks like the backpack kid almost. Like it looks like he's about to do the floss. Do you know him? Have you heard of him, Stapleton?
That was the dude with like the cornrow type deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know him, but my coach had heard of him. I don't know if he rolled with him or something. But before the fight, he was like, "This kid's got really good jiu-jitsu." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And I train at USMA. And at USMA, we really appreciate good jiu-jitsu. So for Matt Martin just said, I knew he must have been pretty legit. And I think that win summed up his good jiu-jitsu.
I mean, a calf slicer. That was the first time I ever seen a calf slicer live at an event. Absolutely blown away by that. So listen, man, another fight that was supposed to go down was Jacobo. Unfortunately, his opponent didn't show up in Kenny Lewis. Were you updated on that situation? Did you know what was going on there?
No, I had no idea about that. I was hyped to hear that he was fighting. He was someone that, did really well. So I knew he was making his pro debut. I was looking forward to checking that out. But no, I just heard that, it wasn't going to happen. I'm not sure why.
It's got to be so frustrating, getting ready for the fight, going through the weight cuts, missing out on all the meals, watching people eat donuts in front of you, and then your opponent doesn't show up. I mean, how would you feel? Has that happened to you before? And how would you feel, the day of the weigh-ins, your opponent doesn't show up? How would you feel in that situation?
I have never had an opponent pull out and me not be able to find a replacement. My first fight, I had an opponent pull out. And I was supposed to fight a guy that was primarily jiu-jitsu. And then, I think with like 2 weeks out, my opponent changed to Muay Thai guy. So, I didn't have to deal with like the frustration of not fighting at all, but I had to, completely kind of change like the mindset of, how I was going to handle that particular fight, just because of the change of styles. And, it changes things in camp. It can be, a little stressful to kind of, all of a sudden need to change things up. But, that's part of the sport. You have to adjust.
So before...
I'm more upset if I couldn't fight because, then, all the sacrifice of, being in camp all the time, dieting and all that stuff, and then not being able to stop that, I can only imagine.
So before we get to the end of this interview, man, I got to ask, like I said at the beginning here, Cage Fight is one of my favorite promotions. What keeps bringing you back to fight under this promotion? What's special to you that, makes you come back to Cage Titans?
A couple things. One, the man who runs the show, Mike Pulver, he is, the best guy to work with. He's so cool. Wicked nice guy, super honest promoter. He, I know there's like a lot of shady promoters out there that, might, not always be looking out for the fighters, but that's not Mike at all. Mike is always looking out for the fighters, super, good guy to work with, and he runs a great show. Plus, fighting at Plymouth Memorial Hall, there's something so special about it. You feel like a gladiator.
The way that it's set up, too, the way that there's like an upper deck balcony, like I always say, it reminds me of like a Gangs of New York, just the energy level there. I think that's what makes it really special. And to get a win, man, and to get that feeling, it's got to be like nothing else. I've been to these other events, and they're great, but there's something about Cage Titans that's just like, it feels like family when you go there. It really does.
Definitely. It's a super homey feeling. Also, there's like a lot of history there for my team. Like every person that I can think of, at least while I've been there, that has all fought, at Plymouth Memorial. I remember going to shows at Plymouth Memorial Hall when I was 14 to watch some of my teammates fight. And, thinking to myself, like, once I'm old enough, like, I can't wait to fight here. And, now I'm 20 years old. I've had 2 fights there. It's been super cool to see how all that, planned out.
Well, you're a young kid, man, and to go back to even younger, we're looking at some Instagram photos, like I said, and you got a little brother, you guys are dressed up as Batman. Is this something that you always want to do? Like, like Mac Miller says, put a cape on, run around, chase the bad guys? How long have you been wanting to do this?
When I was a little kid, like, my favorite show in the whole world is Power Rangers. I just love the idea of getting into the somebody. So, yeah, that's a great line by Mac Miller, and I totally know what it means.
I mean, it's like you're actually a real life superhero now. It really is. And, what would you like to do moving forward here? What's the step? Do you think we're going to get back in there next couple of months? I think Cage Titans has another event, I think in January.
Yeah, I know they have another event in January, but I got to talk to my coaches, figure out when the best time to make comeback is. I'd love to get in there, sooner than later, but I have to pick out the reality of it. And I know that, in terms of my school, I have to finish the semester pretty strong. Training camp took some of my time away from so I got to straighten that out. But, once all that's figured out, I'll talk to the coaches, talk to my family, and figure out when I can get back in there.
It's got to be reassuring now that you got the W. I mean, it seems like you have your plate full, and for people in this sport, you get a loss and it can really make a lot of people crumble. So getting a win and having all this on your plate, it probably is a good idea to just kind of take a step back and go to school. It looks like you got a girlfriend as well. Is that right?
No, I don't have a girlfriend.
No?
You're really deep into the Instagram.
Yeah, we're going deep. We're going super deep here. It looks like you're with a different girl every couple of rows here on the thing, man. But how does your family feel about this? I mean, obviously school should come first, but this is something that, a lot of people take a risk. They want to chase their dream. There's nothing like waking up motivated and inspired to, cut down the bushes of your obstacles in the way of reaching your actual dream. So, and you're right on that path, man. So how does your family feel about it?
I don't think anyone would love their son cage fighting. But my family knows that this is what I love, and my family's super supportive of me. So if this is, what I choose to my passion, they're obviously going to back me up.
Last but not least, man, did you catch Joe's fight at the end? I know you weren't able to catch much, and if you didn't, what were people saying around you about it?
I wasn't able to watch the fight. I know it was a draw, and from what I heard, it was pretty controversial. I heard a lot of people say that Joe should have had it. But I didn't really get to watch it, so I don't know. To be honest, I was surprised that, it was a draw. Draws happen so infrequently that, when there is one, in my opinion, it must have been like an absolute war or just like not that neither one was really going for it. So I don't know.
And here we go, man. I always like to end the show after you guys fight. Like, how did you guys celebrate? Would you go out? Did you get something good to eat? What'd you do afterwards?
Oh, so my celebrating, it's pretty crazy. So after the fight, the first thing I do, I have to go see the family, see all the friends, everyone that came out to support me. It was super cool. The only thing about fighting at Plymouth Memorial Hall is that there's not like a good area for everyone to meet, and like I bring a lot of fans, so like we all just end up like in the lobby just causing havoc, and I feel so bad for the people that are like trying to walk by because like so many people in such a small place. But then we all just went back to my house. I probably had like 12 slices of pizza, and because like I just went from like not really eating a lot and cutting weight, my stomach is so small, and then I shoved down a bunch of carbs, always end up throwing up, but like it's tradition, so it's okay.
You can finally have the cigar with the boys, right? With the brothers. All right, man. So this is what we like to do at this point in the interview. If you have any sponsors, shout outs, anything at all, anything that you want to bring up, anything I missed, the floor is all yours here.
Yeah, of course, man. First off, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. But for any shout outs, I'd love to shout out first my team, USMMA in Bellingham, Mass, led by the man, Tom Havers. Thank you so much for coaching me, Matt Martin, Maddie LaRose, Hillary Rose. Thanks for everything. And then lastly, my sponsors, Physical Therapy U, Minds Media, Halifax, Sheet Metal, Bridgemark, Deli Convenience, and Sigma Chi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. We got to get you back on here. We wish you best of skill in the next fight that you have. We got to keep you you got to keep us posted because I definitely had a blast watching you fight. I would love to see you move forward and keep knocking down this battle, man. So good luck at school and everything. So last but not least, man, have a great day.
Thanks, man. You too. And one more shout out to my sponsor, Landscape Solutions by Chris Bashir. I almost forgot them. That would have been bad.
Oh, and really quick, where can people find you on social media outside of Instagram?
Yeah, outside of Instagram, all my social media is the same. X Shane Doherty.
All right, I'll post all the links down below. Shane, thank you so much, man. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
Now, before we go any further, I got Jay Cuccinello texting me right now. He's on the other side of the United States, so I think he's a little confused about the timing. Hey, can you call now? I hope this doesn't fuck him up. Can you call now? On the East Coast, by NYC. If you need more time, I sound like a SoundCloud rapper where I'm gonna say my sentence and then repeat it at a lower decibel. If you need more time, I sound like Lil Peep. Let me know. Maybe we're gonna have Iggy call in next. Let's get Iggy to call in. You know what? Let's see what Jay says. We might need Iggy to come in and rescue us. But guys, go give Johnny Cupcakes a follow. Now, really quick, while I figure this out, let's talk about DC because he fought this weekend. He beat Derek Lewis. I'm really not that surprised about it. But I must say this. Now that DC is a heavyweight, you got John Bones versus Alexander Gustafsson. And I've seen people on Twitter say, oh, I don't want to see this fight. If you don't want to see this fight, you must be a new fan because you definitely didn't see the first fight. This could be the best rematch in UFC history. I mean, Alexander Gustafsson has only got better. John Jones. I think Iggy just said keep me posted. You know, let's have Iggy call in, but let me just double check with Jay. Hey, if you need more time. All right, he's calling now. All right, Jay Cuccinello calling in now, which actually he trained with Joe Giannetti on that season of Ultimate Fighter. He's going to be calling in via Skype audio. So let me open up my Skype and get him on. But you know what, guys? What do you guys think about this? What do you think about John Jones, Gustafsson 2, and the winner of that? If it is John Jones, do you want to see him fight Brock Lesnar or DC in the trilogy, but at heavyweight? That would be exciting to me. Do I even have Skype downloaded? Because my phone's been so weird lately. All right, it's in there. It's in there. Phone's been giving me so many problems, issues lately. Let's see if I have Jay in here. Called Joe Giannetti. Called my boy James McSweeney, Fabio Serrant, Nolan King, Suman Makatran, who was also on that season. Mikey Kimball, Robert Turnquist, Jay Cuccinello. Here he is. Let's give Jay a call. Call free on Skype. Yeah, Skype pulling through, man. I mean, 2020 almost. Why are we still paying for cell phone service? It just doesn't even. Why are we paying for internet? None of this makes sense to me. It really doesn't. All right, let's try to get Jay in here. Jay is actually getting ready for his bare knuckle boxing fight, which is actually really picking up this year in 2018. And guys, follow Jay Cuccinello if you aren't already. If you don't know who Jay Cuccinello is, you probably have no idea who Joe Giannetti is. You probably have no idea who Luis the Violent Bob Ross is. Jay isn't online. All right, let's get Jay. Jay, where you at, dog? Where you at, Jay? I'll call you now. Okay, I just tried calling you. But in auto-tune. In auto-tune voice. Guys, I'm really excited for not just this interview with Jay, but the last interview with Igdalia Medina. I've been waiting so long to get her on the show. I've known her for the past 3 years now. You may have seen her, but you just didn't know who she was. Either at some of the local scenes, some of the bigger events, Lion Fight. And let me say this about Lion Fight, man. They got signed to CBS. You know how big that is for Lion Fight? I mean, Flow Combat does an amazing job. Shout out to my boys over at Flow Combat. They're always retweeting my work, and they do a great job over there. But I will say this. Getting a spot like CBS, now my grandma can watch. My grandma don't have Flow Combat. So when I go to Foxwoods and I cover these events, I say, Grandma, turn on channel 2. You can see your grandson. She'll be all about that, man. So a big signing for Lion Fight. You know what? Call 203-321-39. I almost gave up my phone number. Why do I always do that for some reason? I always do that. So guys, if you want to get my full take on what I thought about the main event, we did part 1 yesterday for the Cage Titans 41 recap. We had a whole bunch of people calling between Kin Moy, Jacobo, who literally left us on a cliffhanger. Let me show you who Jacobo is really quick, because he is such a character. Like I've been saying this entire time, Cage Titans has so many people that, like, if I was a little kid and I went to a Cage Titans event, it's like all superstars. Like, if you know who you're looking at and you've seen their fights or you know their background a little bit, they all have this very different personalities. All right, Jay says, I'm just trying to sign in, which is fine, man. I mean, Skype, I kind of called him the last second here. Okay. No problem, Jay. And Jay's actually called in before the season of Ultimate Fighter when he was on. He was actually, I think he was on, yeah, he was on Team Stipe. So he wasn't even alongside Joe, but he was, you know, obviously living with them. The entire season was so good. Another season that was full of their characters, between John Gunther, who got signed, who Joe beat in 13 seconds. There was just a whole bunch of guys. Oh my God. But the two guys that really stood out this season, obviously Joe Giannetti, the Violent Bob Ross. Jay Cuccinello made it to the finale. Oh my God, what was this guy's name? Why can't I remember? The guy that was all about just promoting himself. It started with a D. Why can't I remember his name? He had all the chains on. It's gonna bother me because he actually came on Pure Evil in May and gave a 101 to fighters on how they should promote themselves, because everyone was talking about him. Even though he went in that fight, his very first fight, and he lost and didn't look that good, people were talking about him because of how he presents himself. Here, I'm going to retweet this. So for you guys on my Twitter page, if you want to follow Jay, I just retweeted out his Twitter tags. All right. Joining us now. YouTube. Bam, boom. Oh, hey. Oh, my. It looks like he's into CBD oil, which is a big thing I really like to talk about, because obviously I smoke blunts and I don't know, to me, like, it's not like I smoke blunts to get high. It's like I smoke blunts to kind of just find myself in a way. Like Bob Marley once said, you find your true being when you're stoned. And for a lot of people, it might be a big turnoff. Be like, no, man, that just seems like some dumbass junkie shit. But let me tell you, man, the shit I've seen, the shit that these eyes have seen, I need to calm myself down sometimes, because whether being in a car, whether, after working out, I mean, that's why it's a huge thing for CBD oil. And we got to thank Nate Diaz, right, for all that. After the fight he had with Conor McGregor, going in there. No, don't update. Going in there and really breaking the scene, making a lot of people feel like it's okay to go in there and use CBD oil. And I still don't understand, like, how can fighters be able to drink, but they can't smoke weed? That doesn't make any sense. And let me tell you this, Conor McGregor just posted a picture of today of him smoking a joint. I do not find any shame in that. I think it's more disgusting to see somebody show up to a press conference hammered off their ass, whether it's Michael Bisping or Conor McGregor this season or this year against Khabib. It's just something about that is a huge turnoff to me. All right, Jay. All right, let me tell Jay this, because I think he's having a little issues. Take your time. I'm going to have Iggy call in. Like, this is why it's so hard to do these live streams, because anything can happen. You never know what's going to happen. Jay was a little confused that I'm on the East Coast. He's getting ready for his fight. He's probably going through the weight cut right now. Probably a little irritable, even though he's such a happy guy. Call in. So take your time. I'll be ready for you in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. No rush. Just... All right, Iggy's calling, so she must be listening. What's going on, Iggy? Stay right there for 1 second. Let me just send this to Jay. 20 minutes, no rush. Just text me. No, not. Just text me when you're ready. Hey, I spelled that wrong. Iggy knows how bad I am at typing. We're gonna talk about that in a sec. No, Raj, just text me when you're ready. All right. So, guys, we got one of my absolute favorite photographers inside the MMA scene, the combat sports scene. We got Igdalia Medina, hashtag Who Shot Ya, on the line. What's going on, Iggy? It's been a long time coming, a few years now since I've been trying to get you on the show. And a matter of fact, before you even say hello, I gotta say, you were actually one of the first media members I ever met inside the MMA scene here on the East Coast. So it's honestly a huge honor to have you on the show today. And you've actually never even done a podcast before, but people don't understand how much work goes inside the photography scene, the on-set work of all these fighters that, you know, they post up your pictures afterwards. The people on the live streams have always seen some of your photography. You put in a lot of work there. So we are going to be discussing what it takes to be a photographer side the MMA scene or combat sports scene. But first off, Iggy, how are you doing tonight? How are you feeling? It's a beautiful Monday night here on the East Coast.
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just finishing up my Chinese food before I did the live stream. Try to get comfortable, get into the mood of things. We just had Johnny Cupcakes sign off a minute ago. Now, you were at the fights this weekend. What did you think about that main event?
It was intense.
Yeah, it was.
It was intense. I mean, it's hard to see it the way the fans see it because I'm trying to look through the lens. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I don't get the whole enjoyment of it, but it was still intense.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite moments that you get is like inside, you don't really pay attention to the fight. You pay attention for those little moments. What exactly are you looking for? Because you've been doing this for a while now. So you're kind of a vet at it. I mean, when I do my podcast, I know what to do, and you're taking photos, you know what to look for. So what exactly do you look for? Or do you just kind of take as many photos as you can and hope to kind of capture that perfect moment, which, you know, it could pass in a blink of an eye, you know?
Yeah, no, it all depends. I used to train jiu-jitsu, so I do know kind of some of the setups that happen, so I always keep an eye out. Because when they're on the ground, anything can happen. They could be going for an armbar, they could go for a choke, they can do a different transition. So people might be like, oh, they're on the ground, they're not doing anything. But if you look closely, you can see that they're setting up their leg to trap them, or, you know, their arm is moving, or, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different things that's actually happening that a lot of people who don't know the sport don't know that it's happening. So I try to keep an eye to see, okay, well, they're on the ground. Is there anything that's going on that I need to look for that's going to happen? So I keep it that way. But again, you know, you could miss the moment or you can get it. It's a give and take.
So going into the event, what does it take to like get ready for this? Because for me, I always like when I leave my house, I always feel like I'm forgetting at least something. And usually I'm not, but it's just like you have this, you have that, you have the other thing. And for a photographer, you guys probably have 10 times more things to worry about between battery life and you know, what have you. And usually I see you and your husband. Your husband's usually there. He has the computer open. You send the pictures right over to him. But what do you have to bring as a photographer? If somebody's listening to this right now and they're interested in, you know, photography for combat sports, what do you need to have? Like, what's your initial setup that you need to start with?
Well, first you need a camera.
Oh, yes.
That's the first thing, is you need a camera. Going to the events, obviously, you need extra batteries, you need extra SD cards, because you never know, you know, you could have 10 fights. Other promotions might have 20 fights, so you need to make sure that you have enough memory for that show. You also need to bring, depending on the situation, you might need to bring your own little table, which I always have my table. I have an extra, you know, stool to sit on. I have extension cords. I have, like, my tablet just in case, you know, I need to do like the hotspot to connect to the internet if they don't have internet connection. So there's like a lot of little things that you need. But other than that, it's just having fun.
So listen, before we even jump into any more of that, let's introduce everybody like how we met, how we know one another. Like, here's my story of how I met you. I was at, I think it was World Series of Fighting at Mohegan Sun. I literally left the media table. I went outside to just kind of go get like a glass of water or something, and you started walking by, and I think I was wearing like a Pure Evil MMA shirt or something like that, and you were like, oh, Pure Evil, I've heard of that before, and you actually thought I was a part of an older company named Pure Evil. Who was that? Who did you think I was? And let's give them a shout out here.
Well, back when I started, training and everything, I used to train at a martial arts mixed MMA, whatever. And there was a kid there that had a Pure Evil. I don't even know if it was MMA or if it was just Pure Evil, but he had a clothing line. And so when I saw you and I saw the Pure Evil, I thought you were part of his company. I thought you worked with him. And then after when you told me, you're like, no, this is I felt so bad. I was like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. I felt horrible, but,
And honestly, that was one of the first shows I ever covered. So you're one of the first media members I ever met. So every time I see you, it's kind of like a reunion. We see each other either at AMO, Bellator, like even at Bellator 207. Like even though you weren't taking photographs, you actually came down and said hi to me. I post photos all the time. It's always good seeing the media members there, and I think that's what makes a lot of these events a lot of fun for the media members or the photographers, is kind of seeing the same people over and over again. Even if there's any drama or whatever is going on, it's always nice to see one another.
Yeah, but I really honestly don't think there should be any drama.
I
I think
agree.
we should all be on the same page. I mean, because we're really all there for the fighters.
A lot of it is...
Because if there weren't any fighters, guess what? We wouldn't be there. There was no promotion, we wouldn't be there. So it's like everybody wants to compete, but there's really nothing to compete about because we're just letting people know who these people are, everything that they're putting out there and sacrificing.
I'm on the same page as you. I feel like a lot of it is just miscommunication, misunderstandings, or people just trying to be like, just people kind of like feeding their egos. Like, I'm here to help. You're here to help. And like some of these things go right over my head. And then like a couple of times you've been like, hey, did you realize that this happened? I've been like, what? Like it kind of took me something like I have to like backtrack and be like, oh shit, did I fuck up? Did I do something wrong here? Or like, did I make somebody feel this way? And I didn't mean, like, a lot of it goes on, and that's between the fighters, the media. I mean, this is all over the place. And it's a little upsetting because I love everybody inside the MMA scene. But me and you have never had an issue here, Iggy. So I really appreciate that. I mean, obviously, like you just said, we are here for the fighters. We are here to promote them. It has nothing to do with us. I mean, I do the show to literally bring them into light and kind of get their voices heard. Over the years, what are some of the fighters that you've got to meet that really, you've made a closer connection with over the years? You got to see them, fight a couple of times. I mean, because you actually do, like you said, you have a background. Your husband is actually one of the head coaches over at, what's the name of the gym? Help me here. Team Link, right?
Team Link.
And who trains out of Team Link? Because there's a lot of fighters that we know here on the East Coast out of that gym.
Yes, there are a lot of them. At his particular school or where he trains, Cameron's there. There's Pat Casey. There's Miguel Cuevas. There's Nino. He's another one. There's another one who's going to be fighting this weekend, Brandon. Ricardo Funches from over there. So there's like a lot of fighters.
Well, the reason why I asked this, the reason why I asked this, Iggy, the only reason why I asked this is because like a lot of my family members don't understand like the MMA media or even MMA at all. So it's got to be really helpful for you to have somebody in your corner that understands the MMA scene, and you guys can try to be there and kind of get each other hyped for each event. I mean, I don't have that, so I'm kind of jealous that you got that. So how much of a big help is that you got your husband inside the MMA scene being there to help you at all these events? I mean, that's got to be a huge help.
Oh, it is. It's a huge help. Half the time, well, actually not half the time, 90% of the time, I don't know who anybody is. So he's like, hey, did you just see such and such a person? I was like, no, who is that? Because I am so focused on making sure the fighters get what they need, their pictures and stuff, that I really don't really like make the connection of who it is.
I gotta agree.
Kind of like, huh?
I totally agree. I mean, when you go to these events, like people don't understand, like when people at home, the supporters of the fights, when they're watching on TV, there's a little bar that comes underneath saying the person's name. When we're at the event, it's like we got to keep a scout's eye out, and like we got to know who people are. Like I was like, for
Yeah.
instance, like I might get people getting mad at me, but like I saw Rob Font. He was on my show last week, and I saw him this Saturday, and I sat next to him, and I didn't even realize it was him for a second. Like stuff like that happens. You have to be so aware. So that's got to be a huge help.
Yes. No, my husband's the one who points it out all the time. He's like, hey, grab a picture over there. That's such and such a person. I'm like, who's that? He's like, that's the champ of something, something. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go over there. And so I take a picture, and I'm like, so then I go and Google it, and I was like, oh, man, I'm like, what is wrong with me? But again, like if I were to ID these people, I wouldn't be able to because I'm focused on getting their picture so they're able to promote themselves. You know what I mean? Like everybody's so caught up on, I guess, you know what my thing is a lot of like media photographers and stuff. You have there's like two categories. There's the categories that are really all about the fighters, and then you have the other group that are groupies that just want to be taking pictures with the fighters. And it's not really about the fighters, it's about them being with the fighter, where I'm not a groupie, so I don't know all of the fighters, but I do know that I want to make sure they have their stuff so they can, you know, represent themselves and have what they need to show people, because, you know, they work so hard for it. They spend so much time, and that's why you see that I try turning my pictures around so quickly, because they spend, some of them spend 3 months away from their family, training and doing all that, and then they go to a show, and then it could be 3 rounds or it could be 5 rounds, and then it's over, and then they're expecting their pictures.
Yeah.
Like, now they get to relive the show through pictures, and then it's like, okay, well, now you're waiting for pictures. So I try to give it to them because they've done so much.
And you're really
They've
good
been
at
away
that.
from their family. They've been away from their friends, you know. To me, that's like my gift to them. Like, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be at your show and taking your pictures. Here it is.
And you put a lot of work into it. I mean, there's been times when I've been at events and like afterwards, like as a media member, what I do is like I'm there, I do the live results, I do the post-fight show, but then afterward, I'm kind of able to relax until I get home. But for photographers, especially you, and I give you a lot of credit for this, like as soon as you're done, you go right up to your room or wherever you're going, and you literally sit there and you just binge it out to get, you know, all the pictures out and online, because like you said, the fighters, when they're sitting there at the after party or when they're in bed that night, they scroll through, they want to see, you know, they want to relive some of those moments.
Yes.
So it's a big step for a photographer. It's a lot of work. I don't think people realize how much work goes into photography. I mean, how many hours would you say from when you arrive, how many hours do you say it takes until you get the last photo out? I mean, what, about 12 hours, maybe more sometimes? How much work goes into this?
Oh, it's a lot. No, it's way more than that. It's a lot. It's more because, remember, we're spending hours shooting, right? Then we go to wherever we're going to the room, or sometimes I'm even in the car while my husband's driving. I'm uploading pictures because I'm trying to make sure that, you know, people get their stuff, because I want to at least put the results.
Yeah.
Like if I can't go through all the pictures, let me at least show them that, hey, you know, these are the results of the fight. But then, you know, you have like, it could be 2-3 hours to upload all the pictures. Now you got to go through all the pictures and take out the ones that don't work because they're completely out of focus. Because, you know, or we have the ref that's in front blocking, or there's something that we can't get the shot. So we make sure those are out of the way. Then you got to go through and pick out the ones that look really good that you may want to post. And then after you do that, now you got to divide all those pictures. And then, so it's like one day could be, like yesterday, I spent from 9 in the morning pretty much until like 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night going through the pictures. And then this morning, same thing, 8 in the morning up until I think when your show just started, I was doing all the albums.
And obviously,
take like a 15-20 minute break, you know, to eat and then continue.
And you're not just doing the fights. Like, people don't understand, like, you were at the point, like, I've literally watched you evolve over the years, and you put so much work into this, and I see the joy that it brings you when the fighters come up to you and whatnot. But not only are you doing the fights, but you're doing the weigh-in photos. Like, there's an iconic photo that you took that is one of my favorites from after the weigh-ins, where you took photos of Valentina Shevchenko, Antonina Shevchenko, and Scott Kent in a huge moment inside those girls' careers where their sister, if she won that fight, she was going to get on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series with even more shine. If she won that, she was getting in the UFC, and that's where they are. And you posted that photo, probably the last time she'll ever fight for a lion fight, and you captured some great moments there. People don't realize, like, you put a lot of, like, these photographers, they do a lot. They don't just sit there on their iPhones. You have a whole setup. I mean, there's a lot of money, time, and effort that goes into this. So how did you first get approached by, what was it, Lion Fight that first approached you to do the weigh-ins afterwards, like take the photos? We're looking at your Instagram right now with the setup, the big flashlight, the backdrop. When was the first time somebody came up to you and asked you to do that, and what did that mean to you?
Well, it meant the world. Because actually, I mean, I've helped other people, but I had Benny, who's actually the main photographer for Lion Fight. He's the head guy, and something happened where there was like a family event, and he wasn't able to come out here, so he actually recommended me to Scott Kent and them. And to me, it was like a huge honor because it's like, wow, this guy I love his work, absolutely love his work, and he actually noticed my work and. You know, he recommended me. So to me, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
So I made sure that, I mean, obviously I'm not him, so I can't, you know, we can't compare each other, but I wanted my work to be as close to his as possible. So every time I go, I make sure, like, okay, it's not only my name, but it's the promotion, but it's also, you know, kind of like him as well, because we're a team. So it all came from that, you know, him watching my work, working together, and whenever he comes out this way, he's the main photographer, and I keep assisting, and when he can't make it, then I'm their main photographer here in the East Coast.
And you've got to shoot some really up-and-comers, especially this year. I mean, between Jesse James, Kazakowski, I mean, there's been so many. I mean, even Mike Kimball. There's so many people here on the East Coast that we got to watch blossom. Matt Bissett, Nick Newell. I mean, the list goes on and on for people over in the East Coast that you've got to shoot. And that's one of the best parts is, like, going back, look at some of their old photos and stuff. So how did you get interested in photography? Is this something that you've been doing since you were a little girl? How did this start for you?
Yeah, I've done photography since I was a kid. Since I was like, I don't know, 13, 15 years old. But I always did, like, weddings and family get-together because my father's a minister. So whenever they would do weddings and if stuff, you know, the family didn't have money, you know, I would do their weddings. So, you know, I started that way. And then when I started doing, you know, martial arts, I'm like, oh, this is what I love to do. And I kept, you know, being around the fighters and stuff. I was like, oh, I wish I could, you know, give back to them. And that's really where it all came from. And here I am.
Did you start training in mixed martial arts before that moment? Because, I know your backstory and everything. So did you start taking photos for promotions before or after you started training? Because like you said, you need to know what's going on. Like when somebody's locking up or like a calf slicer or something like that, you need to know what's happening so you can capture that. So did you start before or after?
I started shooting after training martial arts. Because, you know, I was going to school. So, you know, I couldn't train anymore, so I would go to school, got my degree and everything, and I was a social worker. And you know what? I love helping people, and I love giving back to people, but I was getting, like, depressed because there's only so much you can help, you know? So I decided, you know what? I love taking pictures. So what I'm going to do is, this world is so negative, I want to capture that special moment for this person, and I want to give it to them and be able to, no matter what happens in their life, I want them to be able to look back and remember that special moment. And so that's what I did. And as, you know, I started training, and, I mean, I would have loved to fight, but that's not in me. So since I can't fight, then let me take their pictures.
And
let
like,
me give back to them.
I say this all the time, like, life happens in the blink of an eye. And as a photographer, to capture those moments for people to look back on, for them to have on the wall in their bedroom or in the living room or when they get older, that moment really brings a lot of joy. It almost makes them high in a way to relive the moment where they put all this work in, and it just means so much. But like for me, what I do with media And you probably feel the same way. Like I wake up so motivated, passionate, and I finally realized I found something in my life that makes me feel alive. Is that what photography does to you? Like, do you wake up and just be like so excited about the next event? And like, how do you feel now that you're a photographer and you're kind of got your foot inside the scene?
I love it. But I'm a special person. Like, I look at things differently than people. I see the fighters, but I see more than the fighter. Do you know what I mean? I'm a mom, so I see the fighter as, oh my God, if this was my son or my daughter, what do I want to see? Or, I used to teach or help George Rivera when he used to have his school. I would help them a little bit with the kids. So as a coach, what do you want to see? Do you know what I mean? So to me, it's not just a fight. Oh, who's going to win? Who's going to lose? It's, you know what? These people have trained so hard for such a long time. They're putting it all out there. So it's a matter of, it's either you win or you learn. You don't lose. Because if you quit, that's when you lose. You know what I mean? So it's important for me to give back to them, to remind them, look at all the sacrifice you did for X amount of time. Here's the result. And through the pictures, what I look at also, if the person didn't get the win, hopefully they can find whatever picture it was that they can be like, oh my gosh, this is where I messed up, or this is what I needed to do. Oh my God, I didn't get the technique correct, and it's because of this, and they can tweak it. So now they have what they need to move forward. So when I see that, and I see the fighter's progression, it makes me feel good.
So,
like, I was a part of their journey. I was able to, have, I don't even know how to say it, but like evidence or proof of their history.
Yeah, 100%. And like a huge thing inside the mixed martial arts scene is like you can get one picture that can go viral off a big fight or something like that. And me and you were actually at Bellator when you came down to say hello to me. We were kind of like cheesing out over Esther Lynn being cage side and her journey and stuff like that. What are some of the photographers in the scene like Esther Lynn? Like, do you look into Esther's work, and like what do you see in her work that really captures your eye? Like, what in photography really captures your eye? I mean, Esther Lynn, I think, is one of my favorite photographers in the mixed martial arts scene right now.
I don't even know, because when I see people's work, it's like I know I can't be them. I'm never going to be them. So it's a matter of how can I better myself. So every time I do something, I can't compare myself to another photographer because we see things differently, we think differently, everything is completely different. So what I do is I just keep researching and researching,
So are you kind of like me where it's like,
uh-huh.
Are you like me where it's like I don't really listen to other podcasts until after I'm done with my podcast? Like, do you not really check out other people's photographies from an event until you're done with the pictures from your event? Or do you like looking at the other people's stuff, during and seeing, contrasting and comparing?
No, I'll see, what I look at is our locals, and like, obviously I look at Benny, because he's, Lion Fight's main photographer, so I look at his work. I love Will Paul's work. He's another great photographer here in the East Coast. Then there's Joe Harrington, who was a huge, photographer on the East Coast, who actually helped me also when I first started. But he does a lot of like street photography and stuff.
I love street photography. That's one of my favorite types of photography right there.
Yeah, so, what I do is I don't know, it's like I think of what picture do I want to see, and then I try finding how I can create it.
So before we even end today's show or end this interview, I want to kind of get some in-depth detail of what was your favorite event to cover in your entire career of photography. If you could pick one photo that was your favorite photo, or at least one event, what's one photo that people that you're really, really proud of that you've taken, or are there many?
There are a lot, because there are a lot of them, because it's like every photo's something totally different. And nobody really knows it unless you're looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like when I go to Lion Fight and I see, like the fighter, and then I see their wife, like you get to see like their interaction, and you can see how. Okay, anyways, you know the movie Rocky?
Yeah, of
Obviously,
course.
you know, he was always about Adrian. And every fight, if he never got Adrian's approval, it's like, oh my God, I can't win without her approval. You know what I mean? So I see that a lot. And it's just like a natural, like, oh my God, baby, here I am. Don't worry, I got you. You know what I mean? And I love seeing that. Like, that natural, not a fake stage for appearance, like, oh, somebody's watching me, let me pretend that I really care when I really don't. I just love that natural support, like from family, from the parents. Like, there's one picture that I love, which I'm actually looking for because I'm trying to do a blog about it, and it's about one of the fighters who's, like in the Spanish culture, they always ask for blessings, right? Like, you go outside, Dad, you know, la bendición. You know, they always ask for the blessing. Oh, you know, you go outside, give me the blessing, you know. Good night, give me the blessing. So they're always being blessed. And in this particular fight, this fighter takes off his necklace, right, and gives it to his dad. But I'm not understanding anything about it, you know. And he asks for his blessing, and he goes in the cage. Later, I find out that it's his brother's necklace that he's giving to his dad because his brother is fighting epilepsy.
Ooh.
So he says that as long as his brother fights every single day for epilepsy, then every time he gets in the cage, he's going to fight for his brother.
I love this. I love stories like that.
To me, that particular picture that I took, probably to anybody who looks at it, it's like, whatever, oh, that's cute. But there's so much history in that particular picture that, like, when I heard that story, like, I was in tears. Because it's like, wow, like, nobody knows what these fighters go through. Nobody knows. You know, what they battle, their silence, their mindset. Like, one of the fighters lost their father during their fight camp. And nobody knows, you know what I mean? It's like, you do not understand what this fighter's going through when he walks into the cage. Like, he locks the door, and it's like, hey, this is in your memory, Dad. You can't be here, but I know you're in my corner. So I'm going to make you proud.
So has that kind of inspired you to start like a new website? Because like I said, you are my favorite photographer here on the East Coast, without a doubt. I always talk about you. At least once a month, Iggy gets brought up on the show. Even people that watch my Instagram stories, like every event I'm at, I do the Igdalia fireball snaps and all that. But like, that's such a huge thing that I feel like people need to see a little bit more about the photo. And I think that you could definitely capture that when you realize what's actually going on in the photo and you to describe it. So where can people find your blogs? Where can people find your website right now?
My blog is just my name, igdalia.blog. And then, obviously, if they go to my website to see the pictures, it's igdalia.com or igdalia.net. So .com is for sports and action photography, and .net is for, like, the portraits and family events and stuff like that.
Oh, you actually still do, like, weddings and stuff like that, too, still?
Yes, I do, because, like, pictures in these events, it's not going to make me, it's not going to pay my bills. You
Oh,
what
I know
mean?
the struggle. I know the struggle.
Wedding pays. Wedding pays, you know, family events pays, baby showers, you know, family portraits, that pays. So, like, in order, you were saying, like, how would somebody get into this particular thing? They can get into it, but they can't expect that they're going to make millions off of it.
Yeah, 100%. It's really a lot of it.
Happen.
A lot of it is navigating, meeting people, connections, and realizing what you really want to do, which is why I'm really interested in what you're doing with the Dahlia website here, because not many photographers out there are doing what you do, and I think it's only a matter of time before the UFC welcomes you in. Would you like if UFC or Bellator would probably be the next step for you? How much would that mean to you to take photos for an organization like Bellator or the UFC? I mean, is that something in your future that you want to do? Or are you more connected to the local scene, the local fighters and their stories? How do you feel about that?
I feel that if they welcome me, great. But I'll always be taking pictures of the fighters. You know what I mean? So it's not just the name. It's about the fighter. Because the promotion won't be anything if they don't have fighters.
I 100%
and that the
agree.
people kind of forget and get lost in it. It's like no, like the shows. You know, they have to meet a certain amount of fights. If not, the show can't go on. So without the fighters, you can't have a show.
So listen,
So
you're
I'm all about the
actually
fighters.
not only just doing the website, but you're actually trying to do a podcast. So when you finally get that developed, and I'm definitely going to help you with it, what kind of a podcast are you aiming for to capture here?
I want people to know who the fighters are, who they really are, not who we create or who we want them to be. It's who they are. You know, because it's like you see the fans sometimes take it like really personal, like I can't believe he didn't do this, and I can't believe he didn't do that. And it's like, wait a minute, like what? Once those doors close or once they walk in the ring, everything changes. Like, you know, unless you're getting in the ring with them, you really don't know what's going on. So I want people to know who they are, not just the champ. You know, this is a undefeated person, but okay, he's undefeated. What motivated this person that has caused him to be undefeated? You know what I mean? Like, there's a motivation. There is something behind that person. I want people to know who that is and what that is and what it means to them. People, we all have choices. We either A, allow it to make us better, or B, we just let it destroy us.
I like that
and
you
all
said
these
that.
fighters are moving to let whatever's happening in their life fuel them to become better and better and better.
I really like that you say that, because I say that all the time. Like, everybody got choices. We can either make a good choice or a bad choice. I mean, I always believed in the Indian tale of, you know, the good wolf and the bad wolf. And I know I might call myself Evil Eddie, but that's only because it's my name. I mean, everybody has choices, and the things that I've gone through in life, between, you know, addiction and just family, like, everybody has their story. But how can you make yourself proud of yourself for once? And finally, I feel like I'm proud of myself. And when I got to meet you, Iggy, you just have such a bright personality that you make me happy. When I see you at events and stuff, like, I just I feel at home. I feel more relaxed and comfortable. And I think every scene, every organization needs somebody like you that has that to offer, just on sight. Like, the second I see you, I feel more comfortable. That, all right, Iggy's shooting the photos here. I feel at home now. I think that's really important. I think that you bring that to the East Coast scene. It means a lot to see you at these events. It really does. Before we end today's show, I got to ask you this. Is it kind of weird stepping in outside of photography, trying to, you know, step into the podcast scene with, you know, setting up equipment or just doing research? What is it like? Like, what's your first take so far on, you know, trying to step foot in the podcast scene? How are you feeling?
I don't know. I'm kind of excited about it. I love that people don't have to see me, because I like being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I like being behind the scenes. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, I can do podcasts, or I can try to do it. I'm not gonna. Who knows what's gonna happen with it? But you know, it's like people come up to me and they want to talk to me, and I don't know why, and I don't mind, and I'm always like, you know, okay, because I always want to smile at somebody, because you never know what that person is going through in life.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to be, you know, that you see all these commercials and things that happen. So I want to be that smile for that person, so they know somebody noticed them. So if they have that thing in their minds, like, nobody notices me, forget it. This is my day. I'm signing out. I want to be that person that changed it for them. Like, wow, somebody noticed me. I am alive. I mean something. So I want to make sure that everybody makes the right decision.
Iggy, you're such a sweet.
You know, they choose.
You're such a sweetheart. I mean, I can't even express to you guys. This is why I wanted to get you on the show. It's because your energy, everything about you is just, it just feel good. It's just so feel good, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate seeing you at every show. So before we let you go, what can we expect from you by the end of 2018 here? Do you got any events lined up? When's the next event they're going to be covering for people can go check out your Instagram or your website to see your work?
This Saturday, I have an event for Premiere. And then I just go with it. I don't even remember if I have an event.
Where is Premiere?
December.
Where is Premiere FC?
It's gonna be in Westfield, Massachusetts this time.
Because honestly, it was like a 4-hour drive to get all the way up to Plymouth. Like, let me say this before I let you go.
I think it's closer to you though. This one
Is it? I
because
hope
it's
so.
near Springfield. It's by Springfield.
Yeah, that's not that far of a ride for me. Plymouth is like going all out to the edge of the earth for me here. It's like
Yes,
a 4-hour
it is.
drive.
It's a hike.
But
It is a hike.
before we let you go, I just want to tell everybody, like, go support your local regional scenes. There's so many fighters, and one of my favorite moments is seeing these fighters that you're watching on the underground or local events actually make it to the UFC. That's one of the best moments. What are some of the some of the fighters that you've got to take photos of that have actually made it to the big show?
I don't even know, to be honest. Oh, I've taken pictures of, obviously, Manny when he was at
Bermudez.
Cage Titans and was fighting. Yeah, Manny Bermudez. I had taken pictures of Joe Giannetti when before he went to the Ultimate Fighter show. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep. I had taken pictures of, oh my gosh, I'm going to probably say his name wrong. Andre.
Sukumta.
Yeah, him. He's such a sweetheart. And he has a story, too, that it's like, oh, my gosh, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm all about, our stories, you know? So I've taken pictures of them. Well, Doomsday was already in, I think, fighting at the UFC when I was taking pictures of him, like training sometimes with George Rivera.
And he has such a phenomenal story himself. I mean, just between battling, what does he have? Asperger's disease?
He's autistic?
Autistic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so inspiring to hear. You were actually at that event for that one. I mean,
Yes.
backstage
The World
here.
Series of Fighting when he announced it.
Yeah, that was that breaks my heart. I still get comments till this day of parents and young kids that see that video and it's like that just means so much to so many people. And that's something that I think people need to see, because one thing that fighting represents with people is like we all are fighting a battle. And it's like people don't realize, like you were saying, what these fighters actually have to go through month after month. I mean, going through the weight cutting, like there are little battles before the battle. And it's so inspiring to see. And for you to be able to capture those little moments, which I've seen you do every event, I always text you after every event, like, when are your photos dropping? Because I get so excited. So the photos for this last weekend, where can people go and find those if they want to go check them out?
They can go right on Cage Titans page on Facebook. I guess just look for Cage Titans. And all the albums are up already.
And you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram. Where can people find you on Facebook?
On Facebook, they can find me on facebook.com/Igdalia Photography.
And then Instagram, are you on Instagram? And you're definitely on Twitter and Instagram, but I can't remember off the top of my head what your Twitter is. But I got your Instagram right up here for everybody to see.
They're both the same. For Twitter and for Instagram, they're both Igdalia LLC.
And one last thing before I let you go. I saw you with your little niece at one of the last shows. Is she trying to get into the scene? Is that something that you like to do with like family members? Get to show them what you do and kind of open up their eyes. Like, you can do something like this if you want. Like, you can be creative. Like, we don't just got to be kids to use our imagination and be creative. You can do this as an adult. Is that something that makes you proud to like bring your niece in, or what is your reason to bring your niece to these events?
Well, I need help when my husband can't go.
Of course. And how does she react to it?
The equipment is heavy. You know, by the time I'm done setting up and taking everything down weigh-in, I am hurting. I am sore. And then doing, the fights, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm sore. Like, I can't move. I can't do anything. So they help me, and she loves it. She loves it. Like, she just loves helping me.
I could tell.
Being a part of it. And now they get to see a different side of it. You know, because, again, as a fan, you see everything like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I haven't been a fan in a long time as far as just sitting and enjoying a fight. But it's a totally different scene when you're behind, and now you want to make sure people know what's happening, keeping them up to date. It's very important.
And that's got to be cool, like bringing somebody in your family or your niece and showing them what you do, and it kind of shows them a different side of who you are and what you do, and kind of gain a little bit of respect to show them that like like I said, you can do something like this. So, Iggy, before we let you go, I want to thank you so much for joining me here on Pure Evil MMA. We got our next caller calling in, but before we let you go, I want to thank you. I want to thank your husband for everything that you guys do inside the MMA media scene. We got to get you back on ASAP to talk some more MMA, some more photography, because I have a lot of questions for you about, you know, what it also takes to be a photographer, and what kind of a strain that puts on you, and what your main goals are. I just have so many questions for you that I couldn't fit in on this episode, but we'll get to that in soon. But I definitely see you before the end of this year, obviously, either at one of the local events. Unfortunately, Line Fight isn't until like next February or something like that, right?
Yes.
It's just like I feel like I missed the last Lion Fight event. Now I gotta suffer and wait like 6 months to see the next one.
Oh, that's the worst when you miss a show. You're like, no.
It's the absolute
It feels like an
worst.
eternity.
It really does. So, Iggy, thank you so much, and I will talk to you in just a little bit. You finally got your horns here on Pure Evil MMA podcast. I hope that you had fun.
Thank you so much.
Before we let you go, if you have any shout-outs, anything at all that you want to say, sponsors, anything, the floor is all yours.
Well, just want to say thank you to all of the fighters, to all of the promotions, to all of the media people, because without them, we wouldn't be around. So just thank you to everybody.
Iggy, have a great night. Tell your husband I said hello.
Thank
Tell your
you.
niece I said hello. Your little boy I said hello, and have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
There we go, guys. Igdalia Medina, which I've been trying to get her on the show for the past like 3 years now. But up next, we got one of Joe Giannetti's training partners. Not training partners, but... All right, we got Jay Cuccinello. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm locked out on my Skype at the moment. Oh, no. Jay, I can't get in any way. I can't get in any other way we can do it. Oh, no, Jay, no. No, Jay. Want to reschedule? Want to schedule or it's up to you. But guys, what a weekend it's been between Cage Titans, getting all the fighters on the show, the photographer on the show. What is my last thing to sum this weekend up? If I could rate this weekend's event for Cage Titans, I say this all the time. If you have shows around you guys, and you're a fan of the UFC, you're a fan of Bellator, go support your local fighters. There's nothing better than seeing these guys make it, than going to these events, knowing who the fighters are, their story, their upbringing. That's what I enjoy most about doing this show, is knowing a little bit more insight inside these fighters' minds. And Joe Giannetti, the story this weekend, it going to a draw. Like, is that a setback? Is that a push forward? To Joe, he was saying, you know, listen, it's not a win, so it's a loss. But in my mind, it's got to be so frustrating for him because he wanted to get the win. It's like, put it this way. You go to, say for instance, you're a senior in high school, right? And you go on spring break to, you know, hang out with all these college guys. And you get to mingle and chill. And then they pick these guys and they're like, all right, we're bringing you to college. But yet you have to go back to high school. That's how Joe's probably feeling right now. It's like he really wants that push. He knows that he can make it inside the big show, but they're just not giving him that chance. And if he got a dominant win, it would have brought him there. And unfortunately, it wasn't his night. It's just not playing ball. It's okay. Hit me up tomorrow, bro. All right, Jay Cuccinello isn't going to be able to check in, guys, so I guess that does it for this episode of the podcast. But before I let you guys go, make sure you guys subscribe down below. Follow me on Instagram at PureEvilMMA_ and on Twitter at Evil_Echo. Let me know what you thought about this weekend's event between DC and Derek Lewis. Was it too soon for Derek Lewis? Is the next fight after Gus the winner going to be fighting DC? Brock Lesnar? I really honestly want to see Brock Lesnar versus John Jones, or DC versus John Jones, or DC versus Brock Lesnar, because DC is saying that he's going to retire in February, which it doesn't match up for me. Like, I feel like right now you're in your prime right now, man. This is the most important time, but at the same time, if you go in there and now lose the belt to John, which we want to see, right? Like, we wouldn't feel fulfilled if DC is holding the heavyweight title, John wants to move up and fight him, and DC doesn't give them that opportunity. That would be that would just be a punch in the stomach, a punch to the gut. So it would be really upsetting if DC ended up not staying around until at least the end of 2019. But that does it for today's show for Pure Evil MMA, episode number 165. I want to thank Johnny Cupcakes for joining us at the beginning of the show. Also, Idalia Medina, make sure to follow her work. One of the best photographers here. If you are not on the East Coast, maybe not have heard of her, but if you are on the East Coast and you've been to any show around here, you've seen her up on the cage taking photos. You're watching my Instagram page at Pure Evil MMA. You can see her there on any of the streams, any of the stories between Cage Titans, Ammo Fight League, Lion Fight. I mean, this girl puts in so much work, and it's really cool to see like what the other sections of the scene does between photography, media, fighters, CEOs. It's really cool. The ring announcers, the referees. I love getting insight on what they do for each event, what they bring, because without all of them, it wouldn't be able to be the full cycle. We wouldn't be able to have these events. We wouldn't be able to get these moments that we get to witness. And those are the best moments. Is the moments that really you see a fighter bloom and they get the time to shine. We've seen it with a lot of guys here on the East Coast, and that's what it's really all about. So guys, that does it for me here at Pure Evil MMA. I'm Evil Eddie. Make sure to subscribe at Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, especially here on YouTube, youtube.com/PureEvilMMA. That does it for today's live stream. Right after this, guys, if you want to hang tight, I am going to be doing the Cage Titans, reliving Cage Titans on the Instagram page. So hang tight for that. I'll be doing that in about the next half hour here or so. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA. White knuckles to the end. Behave yourselves.